Hello everyone, my name is Triton and I'm here bringing you the first video in a series of videos that I entitled Must Know Joseki. The idea behind this video is that there are many questions about when to study Joseki, what Joseki do I need to know at what level, and there aren't many definitive answers. My goal here is to teach you the 10 most basic Joseki, as well as when to play them, and mistakes that people commonly make. So let's get this started with the very first Joseki. I like to set up the board with just 4 points for this, because the Joseki that we're going to be studying here is when black approaches low, and white does the small knight back off here. There are two common moves here, and that's this to try and come into the corner and to sort of establish a bit of a base, and backing off here to try and make a bit of a framework. We're going to focus mainly on the first one. Generally, white wants to prevent black from taking the corner here, and then you can just back off with a 2-space extension, or you can play the small knight's move. Usually you see the small knight's move when black has some sort of support, or white, I guess, to make it so that the top side isn't so flat. Usually we see this variation though. This is a very simple Joseki, and there's not actually much more to say here. So now I actually want to move on to some mistakes that are usually made here. The first mistake that I see even into 5Q, and I've even seen it in a 3Q game, and it's that black knows that he can back off here to make a framework, and he knows that this move is usually a good exchange because you're taking a little bit of a chunk out of the territory in the corner here, and you're establishing a bit of a base. So what many players end up doing, they think, well, I can make a bit of a base like this and take a bit out of the corner, and when white blocks like this, I'm just going to develop quickly. And there's a couple reasons why this is bad. The first reason is that it gets rid of any sort of aji in the corner, because if you just back off, and when white plays somewhere else, it's still possible to take the 3-3. There are some basic Joseki here to take the points in the corner still, if you feel like it doesn't matter if he damages this framework, like if you need the points or something. So there's still some aji there, like that. And you could still do this attachment here if you ever need to. So that's one basic reason why doing this exchange first is not quite as good. I'm making this large extension here. So the other really basic reason why this is a bad exchange comes from some things you should know about the original position. So let's look at this original position. There are some basic invasion points here at A, B, and C. A very common move is to do this invasion, because if white can kill the F17 stone here, then white can potentially get a large corner, and you're reducing some of the potential in this area. This is a common response to it, and just being very basic, white can play here. Black actually has basically has two simple responses here. Black can connect and just make influence in this area and let white live in here. Or black can block here. And this is one basic variation. After this, black can play a move to try and increase his framework, and white gets a large corner. So those are two very, very basic situations that you can get into. However, when you come in here like this, and then back off far over here, When white plays this invasion here, which is the weakness of this shape, attaching on top gives you fewer options. Because when white plays here, you should not block this way now. If you do, after you protect your cut here, which is very important, white no longer has to play f16 because white has c17, which gets rid of almost all of the aji in this situation, and now white can play something to disrupt your influence and your framework. So if we look back at the other situation, this was a pretty good result. If white doesn't protect here and tries to disrupt the influence, it's entirely possible for black to just take the corner and make this group of 5 stones here a little useless. Because if we just do this basic situation, now these stones on the top are looking a bit silly, and it's just not a very good position for white anymore. So black was able to disrupt white in a very great way. So black gets some compensation for white tanukiing here. So if we go back to the original position here, this invasion isn't a big deal because black has many ways to play, many different ways to deal with this invasion. However, after making this exchange and playing back like this, white has a good move, which is just to invade right here. These 2 stones are a bit heavy now, so you shouldn't give them up. And because you shouldn't give them up, that actually gives you fewer options when dealing with this invasion. So this invasion's really, really painful for black. Since we've seen that, what about when white invades here now and black playing here? It seems like the same situation, doesn't it? This is actually another one of the mistakes that is made, but it's a slightly different situation. In this situation, we can usually say that this is a bad move for black. This is a bad exchange. However, let's give black some supporting stones over on this side. Now, when black plays d18 and white responds, and black jumps out, he's threatening to attack this corner group. So if white decides to defend over here, you can play pretty severely against this stone. And if white decides to jump out here, you can do a really nice attack on this group. So this is entirely possible to do. However, you need the support from stones on this side. Because without the support from these stones, if we go back to here, white actually has more options here. Could decide to just block and get back into the situation where this was a bad exchange, or white can attach here. A very simple situation that you can expect would be some sort of exchange for territory and thickness. So white disrupted the framework on the top, got some thickness facing the bottom, and this is just a good situation for white because this stone here at K16 is looking a little bit silly. Like we would prefer it to be maybe at Q10 or approaching the bottom here. Of course, there are other variations, but this is, I just want to keep this very simple. So let's go back to the beginning. The basic Joseki here is when black approaches low and white backs off low. If black wants a solid position in territory, you can play d18 and extend along the bottom like so. If black has support in this area, then black can back off high like this. If black doesn't want to get this result, he can back off here to try and build a framework. From now on, you should also know that when black tries to play the first star of this Joseki and then backs off too far, that you can invade at h17, and that is the weak point of the shape. And black's going to have a hard time defending. And you should also know that when you do back off here, and white tries to invade here, if you have support on this side of the board, then this move becomes very powerful. Because when you do this, you are threatening to attack two different groups at the same time, which is easier for you to handle and so much harder for white to handle. Okay, that's all I really wanted to go over in this video. If you have any questions about what I was talking about here, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to see more of these videos, please subscribe. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Have a nice day.